It's a great day to be a member of Rotary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank past President David Bissell for greeting our guests today, and I would like to invite Greg Anderson up to lead our pledge and prayer.
Welcome, everyone. Start with a prayer. Father, we thank you for everyone here today, for those joining us by Zoom and those who are away. We thank you for the leaders of this club, past, present, and future. And today we especially thank you for Charlie, our new president. We provide talent, ability, and time, and know what we seek to accomplish. We ask for your blessings on this club and its members as we seek to build goodwill and friendship. Amen. And now, it was a really great prayer. So, I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Greg. I'll let, we've got a bunch of folks coming on in. Lisa, Maurice, you have a guest. All right, I'm going to recognize Julia Kalinsky to update us on our family of brothers.
Thank you, President Charlie. So we have several birthdays. Danielle Wembler is celebrating on July 17th, and past President Dean Scott is celebrating on July 19th, and Lenny Curry is celebrating on July 19th as well. We have a few service anniversaries. Skip Booth is 35 years of service today.
Wow.
Have Rick Morales at 32 years and past President Dean Scott at 24 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Now, Ms. Winslow, if you would introduce our guests of visiting Rotarians.
Wow, Ms. Winslow.
Thank you, President Charlie.
Hang on, let me check. That's a good question.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's an honor to be here and to welcome our guests. Gary Wilkinson has two guests with him. He has Miss Katie Rudderman and Miss Adina Pollan. Gary, would you like to introduce
I
them?
would very much, very happy to welcome back Katie Rudderman, who is a partner at Rogers Towers practicing employment law and an alum of University of Georgia and Florida State. And very happy to welcome Adina Pollan. She's been a friend and a colleague for many years. Adina just recently joined the Glengie Law Firm. She heads up their national, it's a national law firm. She heads up their national bankruptcy practice. So her expertise is obviously bankruptcy, commercial litigation. She's a Jacksonville native, went to Bowles, Emory undergrad. Laura. Welcome, Adina, and welcome back, Katie.
Thank you both for joining us today. Do we have any other guests that didn't get a chance to sign in? Would like to be recognized? I know we don't have anybody in our Zoom world, so I will turn it back over to President Charlie. Oh, I had a Oh, wow.
I can make it real slow if you want to enjoy it.
No, we got it.
We here in Rotary welcome you today. So glad you fellowship is yours, sunshine or in rain. We here in Rotary say welcome, come again.
I'm gonna have to work on my vocals.
Thank you very much. All right. Couple of announcements. I want to ask everyone, now that we're in a transition of years, to go on to DAC TV, look at the calendar for all of our upcoming meetings, speakers, and social events. Remember that you can make reservations directly on DAC TV for these events. Main events to watch out for this year, we will certainly going to be working on our oratory competition sometime in February. And our fundraising event is slated to be held in May. Rumor is it will be another casino night, but bigger and better and more productive. So it was a great time. Appreciate everybody who worked on that event. That was a fun night. It ended far too early. Mr. Boss, are you between salad and desserts? Here for
Always available.
Past President Harlan Boss to give us a Paul Harris moment.
Thank you, President Charlie. I've been in the club for 20-some years, and the introduction of visitors and guests is always before the introduction to the speaker. And I didn't know you could change that. But
The power.
you young people today, my God. So this is a regular feature called Story Time with Bill. Bill Trayer has been reading the biography of our founder, Paul Harris. Bill cannot be here today. He is deep in the archives doing research, but he sent this message out for me to read. We last heard from Bill back in, I think it was late April. And Paul Harris's travels back and forth to Europe while he is working as a seaman in 1893. He is now 25 years old and still has the yearn for travel. In typical Paul Harris fashion, upon returning to New York, he decides to go to Chicago to see the Chicago World's Fair. He finds an old classmate to put him up for a few weeks, and he manages to get tickets to the fair. After seeing the wonders of the fair and some other sights in Chicago, Paul begins to wear out his welcome and decided to move on. By this time, he is broke, so he borrows $15 from his temporary roommate and purchases a train ticket to Crawley, Louisiana. Prior to arriving at Crawley, the train went through New Orleans, and Paul decides to hop off to see the Big Easy. He was now broke again, so he began job hunting. Unfortunately, there were no reporters' jobs available, so he took a job packing oranges in Plaquemine, Paris. Forgive me if I just murdered that. Huh? Plaquemine. Just say it fast. Plaquemine, Paris. The next day, Paul boards a train with a gang of workers and heads for Mr. Pizzotti's warehouse to work at selecting and packing green oranges into crates. Sleeping quarters and meals were provided. The normal work week was 6 days, so on Paul's day off, he went oystering in a local bayou with the other workers. It was at this job that he got to experience his first hurricane, taking shelter in Mr. Pizzotti's house. Soon, the house was filling with water as the storm raged, so he and an army of immigrant orange pickers had to hazard the storm to leave the house to go to the warehouse, which was on slightly higher ground. When the warehouse began to flood, they had to cut the dike with shovels and picks, letting the flood drain toward the river and draining it away from the warehouse. They spent the night in a constant battle with the storm. The warehouse survived, although badly damaged, but Paul and the workers survived as well. The town of Buras Township,
I've never been there. The town of Buras Township was destroyed. On August 9th, 2005, Katrina also made landfall near Buras, and it was Rotary International going along with a multitude of other service and governmental institutes that were instrumental in rebuilding the Gulf Coast. It was at this point that Paul reached out to his friend and former boss in Jacksonville, George Clark, for help and a job. George sent funds for a railroad ticket, and Paul found himself back in the employment of George Clark and Company. In the 7 months since Paul had left George in mid-October of 1893, he had traveled to Washington, D.C., Louisville, Norfolk, Philadelphia, Baltimore, traveled across the Atlantic 4 times, went to London, Liverpool, and Wales, attended the Chicago World's Fair, and survived a hurricane in New Orleans. Next week, if I'm invited back, we'll talk about Paul's experiences in Jacksonville. The founder of Rotary, ladies and gentlemen, Paul Harris. Thank you.
Thank you, Harlan. Who ever thought that this organization would be following the lifestyle of Oakland? I'm just constantly impressed with this lifestyle. What I'm going to do is give everybody about 2 minutes just to sit and converse with folks at the table and relax and engage in some fellowship. All right?
Wow. Your Uber app.
My daughter, they just got back. San Diego. Yeah. How's Aiden doing? The other.
That's pretty nice.
I do that, they do, I believe. Hey. I think this all, thank y'all for coming next week.
That's tempting. That's more than tempting. I'll give you the high side.
Okay.
All right. Hope everybody enjoyed that. You know, one of the things about getting here is you come here for fellowship. Sometimes you just don't get to chat. So it's a good way of getting to know folks. I want to start out today by thanking the members of the club for choosing me to lead the club in the upcoming year. So if I fall flat on my face, don't blame me. Blame B4 because she's the one that got me at this, and Harlan Boss who got me in the club. So anyway, but if I do fall on my face, I'm taking the others down with me. So first of all, I'm going to ask Leslie Red and Greg Anderson and Lisa Marie to come up here for a moment. One thing about the hail and farewell is I got my incoming president's pin, but there's some other people that deserve recognition and leadership this upcoming year. So Leslie, here's a couple of pins for President-elect.
Thank you.
And Greg, Treasurer. Thank you. Lisa Marie, Sergeant at Arms.
Thank you very much.
Thank all of you.
I love pins.
You know, starting this year, you look back on where the club has been and everything. I would be remiss if I didn't look at the people who helped shepherd our club through COVID and everything else. And we're still dealing with it, but hopefully it is truly behind us. But I look at Bill Langley and setting this system up, and Tom Rainey and all the other folks that helped us in our moves from one place to the other. And I don't think we can give them enough applause for keeping things afloat during a very difficult time. And also Richard Dow. So thank you. I look at this upcoming year as one of renewal for the club, re-energizing for the club. There's something about COVID. I had COVID, had the long COVID. I felt like I was in a miasma for a while. We need to draw everybody back into what makes this club important for everybody. So I want to talk about three things today. First, the Rotary International Convention last month in Houston. Second, the district's club survey results. And then third, my goals for the upcoming year. So as I mentioned at the Hail and Farewell, everybody who has been at a Rotary International Convention just talks about how much fun it really is. And I've been to a lot of conventions and conferences, and I haven't found a whole lot of them all that much fun. But the Rotary International Convention truly is fun. When I got to Houston, one of the first things that I did was check into my room in order to do a couple of necessaries. And one of the first things I had to do is to go to the small room in every hotel room and take care of business. And so one of the paintings on the wall was this. And I looked at it, I looked at it, I looked at it, and I thought, Spring Hill Suites must have really recognized Rotary was coming here. Because when you think about it, what better representation of Rotary but the wheel? And then I started thinking about the conferences that was at the Houston Convention Center the week before us with the National Rifle Association. I wondered, what did they put on the walls? Okay, so I'm diverting from what I came here to talk about, but that was just kind of the way my mind works at times. So first of all, the size of the convention center in Houston is absolutely incredible. You could take our football stadium, put it inside that center, and still have room left to spare. And it's air conditioned, unlike our stadium. They warned us to wear comfortable footwear, and there was a reason, because you walk a lot, going from the main area where the General Assemblies are to the House of Friendship. It's a hike, but it was an extraordinary facility. Three things really impressed me about the convention experience. First, the opening session was incredible. The thing that stood out in my mind was the parade of flags for all nations that are part of Rotary. And as each flag is announced, the flag bearer comes out. There's usually clubs from that country that applaud and some general applause. But when the Ukrainian flag bearer came out, 11,000 people in that room stood up and applauded in unison. And that really told me a lot about where Rotary stands with the conflict in the world at the present time. It was an impressive reaction just to that nation and the clubs in that nation. And later this year, we're going to hear from one of our members about the Ukrainian conflict and war. Second thing that really impressed me about the convention was how 11,000 people could be so cordial when confined in one building. In our world today, there's so much divisiveness, and it was nice to be in a place for a change where that many people could be so courteous and welcoming to others. And that's the glorious world that Rotary seeks to achieve. Third, there are a lot of messages that are constantly coming to you when you're a president-elect and coming in as a head of a club. But one thing sticks in my mind, and they talk about it quite often, and that is service to others does two things. One, it certainly helps
I called Tina and told her that you'd
serve
sent.
other people.
What?
Let me know.
Can they see? Well, so service does things to improve your community, but when you think about it, service also helps those who serve feel better about themselves. Even after moving a quarter ton of mulch You feel better for a job well done and for helping others. Studies repeatedly show those who are engaged in service clubs and service activities feel better about themselves and their lives and their place in the world. So, one profits most who serves best. That is one of the mottos of Rotary. That is truly what it is all about. But more about that in a few minutes. So I want to talk a moment about the district's club satisfaction survey results. First of all, I want to thank the members of the club who responded to the survey. This club had a 46% response rate. As surveys go, I think it's a pretty good response rate. It's certainly a representative sample. Generally, there was, and I'm sorry, there was no way I could put this that it really worked well. Generally, up here is the district average. Here is our average in terms of how satisfied you are with your current club, satisfaction with Rotary in general, and how likely is it that you will remain a member of Rotary for at least the next 2 years. So as you see, our figures, this is on a 5-point scale, are right in line with the district as a whole. So I think that's solid. I'd like to see them up in the 4.7 and 8%, but we're in a solid position. We also have good marks on how members feel about the club and its responsiveness of its leadership to its members. And I don't know if everybody got a copy of these results, but y'all, I don't want to read them off for you, but those marks are good. One of the most interesting results was the reasons members joined the club versus why members remain in the club. All right, as you'll see here, 14 respondents indicated that they joined the club because of business and professional networking opportunities. 9 said fellowship opportunities, and that's kind of consistent with the overall district result. But if you go one step further, those figures flip after time. Why do people remain in Rotary? As you see down here, the business professional networking opportunities are not as important. What becomes important is the fellowship opportunities and the opportunities to engage in service projects. And I think that's a very interesting insight. So the final portion of the survey, which I think is informative, is the members' opinions regarding service projects and giving. Now, on this scale, we're a little bit lower than the district, but there are 2 things that you really see coming out of this portion of the survey. The survey results show that our members feel that the service projects we do are effective in improving the community, and we need to increase our engagement in service activities and our charitable giving. So that all gives me the direction on the path for the club this year. So part 3, service projects. That is a very important thing to me. Stephen Jones has agreed to take on the job of our service committee. And Steve and I have talked. He wants to try to have 1 significant service project a month. Now, we looked back over the last few years and found out which projects have had great attendance and participation. We want to try to recapture those projects, and I think we will. But I want to do more than just repeat all of our regular projects. I want to add projects and activities that you all hear about and you all are interested in doing. You know, funnel those projects. Everybody here is networked within the community and knows of things that are going on that are good for the community and good projects. Doesn't mean that we have to have 2/3 of our club out, But if we can participate in various projects throughout the community, bring it to us. Stand up during a meeting and say, look, I know of this event that's going on this weekend or 2 weekends from now. Here's what it's for. We would invite you to join. Get out and find ways to be involved. I think it's very important for us within this club to spread word about ways to serve within the community. On a larger scale, one thing that I want to do, and I talked about this at Hail and Farewell, and this isn't necessarily just one Saturday, this is a long-term project, is working with the Northwest Jacksonville Club that we helped start to deal with some of the issues in the Hilltop Apartments and the school that they are sponsoring with feeding the children. I talked with Dale Moe at an after hours event during the convention, and he was talking about how the school tries to give backpacks of food to the kids for the weekends because there's not enough food for the families to get through the weekend. But because of funding and availability, sometimes they can only do one grade at a time. Children do not learn if they're hungry. And so this is a project that I really want to work with them. We've got to work with the school. We've got to work with the community. But I hope we're still working on the plan of the best way to attack this issue. And whether we do it by a food packaging project or trying to help with distribution of food in other ways, we'll figure out the best way for them. That is something that, like I said, it's not going to be just one Saturday. It's going to be a long-term project. My goal here is I want to provide variety in our service projects. Not everybody wants to move mulch or do a cleanup, okay? I want the service projects to be diverse in a way for what the membership of this club wants. So I want to thank Stephen for heading up our service committee. Second, charitable fundraising. Casino night was a great night, great fun. We will do it better with more money raised to help us with our charitable works. So my thanks to Tom Rainey and Lisa Marie for agreeing to co-chair this committee. This year will be bigger and better. In connection with our charitable work, I also want to improve our participation levels in giving to the Rotary Foundation. Crystal Brown has agreed to chair our foundation committee again. This club, we get reports out about where this club stands in terms of per person or per member giving. We're not even top 10 in the district. I think that's where we need to be, is to get in the top 10 within this district. But we'll be working with Crystal and some other folks to try to see if we can't boost our foundation giving. Third, membership. Membership committee worked very hard last year to develop a plan for increasing the size of the club. During COVID, we lost a few members to age. We lost a few members to just the atmosphere. I think we did good bringing in a lot of new members this year. We can do better. And I hope to reset our goals and get this club back up to where we were pre-COVID. And these meetings and our service projects, I think, will go a long way in doing that. Fourth, and of great importance, programs. Les, where are you? Les has taken on the job of dealing and getting our programs going. We are again adopting themes for a period of time and trying to have our speakers deal with the themes. Because I think one of the great things about Rotary is it educates you on what's going on in your community. So many times, if you're in the workaday world, you become very insular. You don't know what's going on in the community. There's so many things, great things going on in this community. And I want this club to be the means in which you learn about your community. And last but not least, more evening social occasions. Basically, 1 a quarter. Time for fun and fellowship with adult beverages. Vicki Lynn and Tom Cigarello will be heading up this most important job for us to just get together and enjoy each other's company, because that's what really binds us together. So please go to DACDB. You will see that there are still some committee that needs leadership. Unfortunately, this chart does not show all the members of the committee. There are a lot of members in some of the committees, but if something really catches your imagination, let me know. We'll get you on a committee. And if you want to head up an area, let me know that. We'll get you in there too. Don't make me come looking for you. All right. Again, I want to thank you all for placing your trust in me for the upcoming year. Please remember that the essential complement to good leadership of any organization is the engagement of its members. This is your club, so please reap the benefits of being involved. And imagine what can be done by this club through a year of involvement. So any questions? Oh, good. Okay. I have a sort. Yes.
Just one quick question. Is the oratory competition one of your priorities?
Yes, it is. I think didn't I mention it?
Yes.
Yes.
I did. You were. Yes. That was one of the 2 big projects. Yeah, an oratory and casino night. Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah, at the international convention, did they have 2 sessions this year? When you went,
They had more.
it was just one each time?
Just
Yeah.
one.
It was, yeah, there was 14,000 this year. I think, no, it was 11,000.
11,000, yeah.
Oh, so it
Like
was
half of what it normally is.
Yeah, well, a third compared to some, but COVID, and I didn't realize how tough it was. Those people coming from overseas.
Oh, yeah.
Barry Rasson got hung up because he tested positive. Our new director, Jeremy Hurst, he and his wife both tested positive. And they just had to slot down in Houston for a week until they could get a negative test before they could fly home.
They could go to the convention because.
Well, they were in the convention, they were there, but apparently some of the people got it, so.
Yeah, but for a newcomer, it impressed the heck out of me.
Oh, I mean, it was pretty good.
Now, Mike and I have been to conventions where there are, 24,000, 26,000 people that show up to a convention. That's when it's really impressive.
I have to go.
This is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was a good story.
So you really had some special situations, as Mike alluded to. People come from all over the world, and there are different rules, laws, what have you, in these countries about where you can travel, when you can travel, as it relates to COVID. And that just stopped a whole lot of people from even attempting, I think, to come to Houston, even though it was a great convention.
And it was run like clockwork. It's pretty incredible. They got that down to a science. Yeah. All righty. Well, want to remind everyone to join us next week when the speaker will be Alan Bliss, who is the executive director of the Jacksonville Historical Society. It's going to be dealing with our first theme of the year, and that's the history of Jacksonville. Should be a fun time. And I'm always for being on time or a little bit early. I don't like running late. So what I'm going to do, I had planned on having the four-way test here. And you want to come here and join me? But the polls for our chart, or you're going to do it.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Just put your feet on there. There you go. All right. So.
No, you're supposed to.
You're
supposed to stop it, not wait it up.
So Barry, you want to lead us in the four-way test?
The four-way test are the things we think, say, or do. First,
Is it the truth?
You want me to do the whole thing? You said just the first.
No,
I
I
got
got
that.
this in the four-way test.
All right, second.
Is it fair to all concerned?
Third.
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Fourth.
Will be beneficial to all concerned.
Idiot told.
Thank you all for coming. See you next week. Gotta find it.
Order new polls if we can. We should be able to understand it.
You did a great job.
Well,